Well, hello everybody. Uh, I promised you a short video on how to do the political film paper, and there's already an assignment box on the Blackboard site where you can turn the paper in. The due date is on the syllabus. It'll be the same as it was. It's several weeks away, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how to do it. If you go to on the Blackboard page, on the left-hand panel, the main page, there's a folder for course documents. If you click that, click course documents, you'll see there, if you scroll down a little bit, it says instructions for political film paper. And in that folder, you'll find this. This is a document that you can read online or you can print out or copy and paste, whatever you want. It's really pretty simple. I'm just going to tell you how the assignment works. The point of the assignment is to get you to look at certain films and understand the political messaging that is contained within the films. Now, the films, um, the assignment is really pretty simple. I mean, basically, you simply um, watch one of these films and then you write a short paper, um, which, I'm going to be a little bit flexible on this, but normally they are in the range of 2 to 4 pages. Um, I think it's hard to do justice to it in less than 2 pages. I think you don't need to go more than 3 or 4. But I mean, it says in the instructions 2 pages or less. That I would it says 2 pages in length. I think 2 pages should be looked at as kind of a minimum. But if you go over that, that's totally fine. 3 pages, 4 pages, but that's plenty. So the point here is to look at the film differently than you would normally watch a motion picture. Usually we just watch them for entertainment value. In this case, you're going to watch the film with certain questions in mind. So please read the questions before you watch the film. There's a whole list of them. And there's quite a few. You don't have to answer all these questions. I'm asking you basically to do a report on the film that identifies the political message that it contains. Don't spend your time telling me what the film is about. I mean, you can certainly in the course of answering the questions, you'll talk about what it's about. What I mean is don't write a long section where you summarize the plot of the film. Um, I'm looking for 2 pages of analysis of the film. And of course, you'll be talking about what happened in the film in that analysis, but I don't want, just to make it clear, I do not want a long summary of the film. So identify and be sure you pick a film, watch it from beginning to end, but read the questions first. The questions are a way to get you started on your analysis. You don't have to just pick one. These are questions you can pick from to frame your analysis, as it says. Whose general political messages, ideological posture, or significance do you find in the film? In other words, one thing you may notice is that this film is a political statement by somebody in particular. Maybe the director. For example, there's a film in there called Wall Street. That's one of the films you can choose from. Oliver Stone is the director. He has some very well-known political views, and all his films have a political thrust to them. And so the fact that it's an Oliver Stone film gives you a clue. You can find out what his views are, and you'll see them reflected in the film, and you can talk about that. And others, here's another question. What does the film say about who has power in society? For example, does it talk about how a small number of rich people run the society? That would be one option. Or does it talk about the power of the rugged individual to change things? Is it about what people can do when they pull together? Things of that sort. Who are the antagonists? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? And what do they represent? What forces in society do the good guys and the bad guys represent? What sort of conflict is depicted in the film? What are people fighting over? In almost every film, there's some sort of a conflict. It's kind of a basic element of drama. And what is the conflict about? What are they fighting over? What theory of human nature and motivation, like why do people do things, does the film represent? What perspective on the nature of justice does the film present? What perspective on individualism as opposed to group or community action do you find in the film? Often you'll see, for example, that problems are solved by one lone person. What does that say? Isn't that an interesting perspective? The film is telling you that the lone individual solves our problems. Um, what theory does the film depict regarding the nature of political power, who has political power, how they get it, and how they use it? Um, what viewpoint does the film present on what government should do, what it should be, how it should be organized, what its objective should be? Does it depict government as being good or bad at solving problems? Does it depict government as being inefficient, ineffective, effective? And what aspects of government? The military, the bureaucracy, etc., the president, Congress. Now, there are many options, and you can check these things with me if you want to discuss these. But I think um, when you read these first and then you pick a film, you'll be able to understand some ways to characterize, to analyze, to discuss, to react to the political message of the film. So think of the paper as kind of having two sections. One is where you identify what the film is saying about some of these questions, one or more of these questions. And second, a section where you react to it and you talk about it yourself, what you think about it, how you view your own individual reaction to it. So here are the films. All the President's Men. This is a famous Jimmy Stewart movie from, I think, the 1940s about an idealistic man who goes to the Senate and encounters the reality of political power. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. All the President's Men is the story of the Watergate investigation by Woodward and Bernstein. So All the President's Men is about Watergate. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is about the idealistic senator. The film Vice, a film made just a couple of years ago about Dick Cheney, President Bush's vice president. Malcolm X, which is a film by Spike Lee about the famous civil rights leader. Wall Street, I mentioned that. That is the Oliver Stone film about the roaring 1980s on Wall Street. Network, a very famous film about network news and the relationship between the news and populism. It's a very, and corporate control over the news. It's a very well-known film. Wag the Dog, which is a film about the use of basically executive power and particularly the war power to improve a president's approval ratings. The Big Short is an excellent film. It is about the book by Michael Lewis. We read his book, The Fifth Risk. He also wrote a book called The Big Short. And this movie is made from that book, and it is a really entertaining depiction of why the economy collapsed in 2008. Dr. Strangelove, very famous Stanley Kubrick film about the madness of the mutual assured destruction logic of the nuclear age, when the US and the Soviet Union were at odds and threatening each other with their nuclear arsenals. Get Me Roger Stone, really excellent documentary, just came out in the last couple of years about Roger Stone, Trump's henchman, who is now in prison. Really fascinating depiction of the ultimate in cynicism and manipulation in politics. So those are the films. All the President's Men, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Vice, Malcolm X, Wall Street, Network, Wag the Dog, The Big Short, Dr. Strangelove, and Get Me Roger Stone. Consult your syllabus for the, the due date. It's weeks in the future, near the end of the semester. I just want you to understand what it's about. If you have questions, email me. If you need to talk about it, we'll talk about it. So there you go. And I think you'll find this assignment really fun and also a very good learning experience. So I'll be talking to you soon.